On.
Hello, ladies and chaps. Why did I say that? That was just weird in my video. Okay, we're gonna be reacting to this again. This is number 3, um, of me not freaking out and not getting scared. Let's go.
A teacher and an ambulance was called to take Christian to the hospital. After the nurse checked me out of the office, I looked at the clock on the wall and saw that it had been an hour since school was released. I walked home, this time by myself. It had been 3 weeks since that incident. Jordan returned from his suspension a week ago, and things seemed to have returned back to normal, apart from the occasional rumor about the fight. I went over to Jordan's house on Sunday. I mentioned that Christian was due back from recuperation the next day, but we didn't talk about the fight between the two of them. When I arrived at school that Monday, I saw Christian getting dropped off by his dad. He still had a lot of bruises and was wearing a neck brace and a few small bandages. Jordan didn't show up though, most likely wanting to avoid Christian on his first day back. The bell rang and sounded the start of the first period. Students started to head towards their respective classrooms. I was on my way to English when I noticed a group of people forming around a section of lockers. There were a few faculty members trying to keep students at a distance from whatever happened. Another fight, I thought. I hadn't heard anything going on before, though. I got closer to the crowd, but couldn't make out what was going on. I turned around in the opposite direction and saw Christian sitting on a bench with a teacher kneeling in front of him, holding him reassuringly by his shoulders. He had a catatonic look on his face, and I heard the teacher speaking softly in a calm voice to him. Turning back, I tried bending down to see if I could get a glimpse of what happened, but the area was still cluttered with people. I got a classmate's attention from in the crowd and asked him what happened. "Someone broke into Christian's locker and did some really messed up stuff," he responded. I pulled him out of the crowd and looked him in the face. "Tell me exactly what happened." "I don't know, man. I only saw it for a moment, alright? Someone shoved a bunch of bloody animal parts and stuff in his locker. Damn, it's messed up," he said as he frantically stumbled out of the crowd and away to a classroom. Think of how this all sounds. Your best friend begins acting possessed, then has a psychotic breakdown and bludgeons a classmate's face to a bloody mess. He ends up absent on the day that they find a pile of bloody, dissected animal bits in the locker of said classmate. I took off out of the school gates without hesitation, going straight for Jordan's house. I ignored the burning in my legs as I ran, thinking only of what had happened. I had no clear idea as to why I was going to Jordan's, but something clicked in my mind, and I immediately felt that he had something to do with the gory mess in the locker. I was getting close. I ran up the dirt path from the road towards his house. The front door was left wide open. Anxiety struck me like a brick wall as I walked closer, becoming increasingly distressed. I took a step through the doorway and heard a splash under my foot as it landed on the wood floor. I looked down to see that I had plunged my foot into a puddle of blood. My tongue caught in the back of my throat, and my heart pounded faster. The puddle led across the floor into the kitchen. Part of me wanted to run away that very instant, but I continued to walk slowly towards the kitchen. Following the dark red path, the cutlery drawer was pulled out and the handle and knives were streaked with blood. I grabbed a knife fearing what monster may be lurking in the house. The path of blood led out of the kitchen through another door into the hallway. As I followed it to the base of the staircase, the nauseating stench in the house became more apparent. I held a knife out in front of me with both hands, turning around to see if anyone was there. The house was silent, and I stood there for about a minute. As I turned back to face the staircase, there was a loud thud at my feet, and something warm splattered against my face. There, at my feet, was a decapitated, skinned animal carcass, about the size of a dog. It was still wet with blood. I heaved, but nothing came out. I saw movement at the top of the stairs and quickly looked up. The figure stood there, silhouetted by the glare from the window behind it. It was like nothing I've seen before. It had pointy ears sticking out at the top of its head, and its long arms extended down to its feet. It just stood there, watching me. I couldn't manage to take my gaze off of it, nor could I move. I was paralyzed and began to lose sense of time. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at it. Eventually, my eyes adjusted to the brightness from the window. I could start to make out distinct features of this thing that stood before me. Its arms had more joints than regular humans and appeared to limply dangle there as if the creature made no effort to use them. It had the muzzle of a dog, and its upper part was covered in animal fur. I was still clueless as to what it was. My eyes soon became properly adjusted to the lighting, and I gradually became filled with horror. This wasn't some sort of otherworldly beast. No, it was assembled in this world. I could see the seams of torn flesh where one arm met with another, the clear difference in skin tone. I had no interest in wondering where the additional limbs came from. The furry hide of a canine was draped over the front of this thing's bare human chest. Blood dripped down from it until it reached a pair of dark red stained jeans. I recognized the face of what was once a dog named Axel, now positioned over this thing's face as some sort of mask. I knew who it was, but there was no way I could ever accept it. I couldn't. I began to panic, and this must have also been noticed by the beast. It started to make a growling sound at me. It arched its back, preparing to pounce on its prey. I was that prey. I broke eye contact with it and realized I was still gripping the knife that I took from the kitchen. The beast leaped from the top of the stairs, and I raised my arms. There was a gashing sound, and I was knocked back on the ground. The weight of this monster was bearing down on me. The mask, made out of Axel's head, became detached from the wearer's face, and I could see clearly now that it was Jordan. I felt a warm liquid run over my hands. His body slowly became relaxed, and he made no effort to fight back. I looked down to see the knife penetrating Jordan's gut. I looked back in his face. It was Jordan looking at me this time, not the monster that had possessed him before. He smiled at me, not a sadistic grin, but a calm smile of relief. His eyes slowly closed, and he lay his head on my chest, becoming completely motionless. The blood was still rushing over my hands.
Oh my god, that's beautiful. You just killed. I'm gonna end it here, guys. Goodbye. There's something wrong with me, guys.